All right, we should be live. It looks like it is picking up my audio. Let me get prepared here. Here we are. Okay. Am I all good? Okay. So thank you all for being here tonight. I want to start out by once again thanking our fee review committee, especially for coming together on such short notice within these past 2 weeks to develop a new fee package. I also want to thank anybody who is joining us live, whether that is after the fact or currently. We were able to meet and deliberate for nearly 6 hours this past Friday, and I'm excited to share with you all what I believe is now a much stronger package. This should be a lot shorter, and I'm planning for it to be a lot shorter because I'm only going to go over slides for things that changed since the last meeting. I went over this like a bunch of times, and I'm pretty sure I've got it right. But please, fact check me on the bill. If there's anything I don't cover, I will just add that slide back, and then we'll go over it. Ask me a bunch of questions. I should hit everything. You can tell if I'm adding it or not if you go on the link that's on the agenda, and if it has the grayed out I, that means I'm not going to present it here. So if something else is different that you want me to cover, just ask me a question during the questioning period. Yeah, like I mentioned, best way to understand the changes here is to look up the fee bill from last cycle and then compare it to this one, or just look at the presentation I have here. Okay, so here are your recommendations that you made 2 weeks ago. I'm not going to read them out verbatim, but here's the gist. First, you suggested to decrease the student union building fee by $5 as opposed to the original decrease of $8.50. We did not fully reach that, but we did decrease the decrease, if that makes sense, and we'll get to that. Next is the Safe Ride fee by $10.55 as opposed to the current increase of $12.55. We landed somewhere in between there. Then increase the CAPS fee by $3 as opposed to the current increase of $4 in order to allocate $1 to student support and case management. We did do that. Then we reconsidered other fee entities, and you'll see those changes reflected. And I made sure to, in my officer report, give a reminder for that fifth suggestion there to make sure that all of our discussions were clear, transparent, and recorded as they have been so far. Next up, this slide looks a little different. That's because per suggestion number 4, the fee is now flat in accordance with your recommendation and the guidance from our advisors. It's still unclear whether tuition and fees will be able to increase this year. So any fee increase comes with the risk that the package is going to be modified without student input by the administration or the Board of Regents, just someone further up the chain. The larger we increase from a flat fee, the greater that risk. So the committee chose to keep fees flat to prioritize affordability for students and to minimize that risk. That led to some very difficult choices, but I do believe that this new package is the result of careful discussion and deliberation surrounding those choices. So let's get into it. The Student Senate activity fee saw sorry guys, it's going to be confusing because I'm going to be talking about the change from fiscal year 26 to fiscal year 27, but I'm also going to be talking about the change from our first proposal to our second proposal. I'll try to make it clear how I'm splitting that up, but keep in mind everything on the slide, it's formatted in the same way it was before. So you'll notice that instead of a $4.50 decrease, we went with a $3.50 decrease. That's in order to accommodate for an increase in block requests. So we have a new fee of $16.50 instead of $15.50. At the moment, there are around $1.1 million worth of requests for block, and that's around $100,000 more than last year. That is not unexpected, but it will require careful planning on the part of our treasurer and our block committee. Another change here, we also replaced the old resolution that talked about shifting money from line to block to one now pertaining to student support and case management, and I'm going to provide more detail on that later. I'm not even going to read it right now. The treasurer, the reason we removed the original one is because the treasurer, they are a trustee for the Student Senate activity fee, so they will decide the best allocation for that activity fee. And that's going to depend on what you all approve here tonight, what Students Assembly approves next week, and whatever they believe is best given the volume of block application requests. That's likely going to include a block increase rather than the decrease. This was the table for the $3.50 decrease, I think, because it says $16.50. Yeah, this is the correct table. So this is what was originally budgeted with a $3.50 decrease. That's probably going to have to change, and we'll take a look at how that can look in the future. But there is some more money freed up as we no longer have a deficit, as I mentioned before, and that's going to allow us to decrease this fee, hopefully. Um, Another thing, the numbers on this slide might look a little bit different from the fiscal year 26 budget book, and that's because this uses this year's fee multiplier instead of last fiscal year's, and I don't think it includes summer enrollment. So look at the budget book for each fiscal year if you're trying to compare what block looked like last year for fiscal year 26, and then that can hopefully help inform what it'll look like next week for fiscal year 27. Okay. Next up is CAPS. As discussed in the Finance Council recommendation, CAPS was increased by $3 as opposed to $4. This actually was one of their asks. I believe I mentioned this 2 weeks ago, but this was their scenario A ask. That decrease in the increase gives more breathing room for other fees, and it will allow CAPS to be able to continue to account for their ongoing expenses and maintain their levels of service at this fee. But they likely won't be able to increase programming as they were able to with their higher fee before, which we had with $4 before. Next is the Hilltop Child Development Center. It was cut down by $3 instead of being cut to $0. Committee members relied upon similar reasoning as the original deliberations and cited the small proportion of their overall budget that we support and decreased enrollment in this past year. This smaller fee of 70 cents will hopefully allow them to continue some of the reduced rates offered for KU students and then leave the path open for a return of funding in future years. As a reminder, some of the discussion that led to this cut is primarily concerns with an investigation by the state into the Child Development Center. And although they did bring in new leadership and improve training and licensing standards, the committee members still felt that this was an important concern to look at this year. Next is the student union building fee. The committee decided to reduce by $6.50 as opposed to the original $8.50 decrease. Though we didn't reach the $5 reduction that was recommended by you all, our other allocations, frankly, wouldn't have been possible without significant reorganization. This new fee of $65.40 will mean no further union renovations and a likely reduction in student services. The first resolution, which originally, we have two resolutions here. The second one did not change. The first one did. It originally just concerned fully funding KJHK from the numbers presented to us during fee review hearings, but it was now broadened to include SUA and give more deference to the trustees for the student union building fee. And whenever we reach the questioning period, and we're going to do this similar to how we did last time, there'll be an opportunity for points of information from anybody here in the room, along with speeches, just how we did it last time. Next is the Student Recreation and Fitness Center. You might know it better as the Ambler Recreation Center. The committee chose to increase by $5.05 as opposed to $6 increase. This fee took a small haircut to their increase in order to continue supporting other programs. This should still allow them to expand student-facing programs, which they plan to do with their operations increase, also with replacing old equipment, and then maintenance will allow them to continue their maintenance efforts and then also address expected maintenance in future years, albeit at a slower pace for both of those, since they're not getting as big of an increase. As a reminder here, this slide is no longer included, but we no longer are paying the Recreation Expansion Center bond. So that freed up, I believe, $11.55. Someone can fact check me on that. But that was an extra $11.55 that we were able to work with here. So I think it's plenty fair to give $5.05 of that back to the rec. Next up is the Sexual Assault Prevention and Education Center, or SAPEC. For a similar reason, we also decreased the increase to the SAPEC fee. We had to think really critically about every increase we granted this year, especially when there were big cuts to existing services. This increase should still sustain many of SAPEC services, but they might require another increase in the coming years instead of being sustained until fiscal year 29, as they would have been with the 75-cent ask that we granted fully before. Next is campus transportation. Here, we decreased bus procurement by $1.50 to grant their original dollar ask. That's no longer going to cover the replacement of Safe Ride vehicles, and it's only going to be enough to support their existing bus procurement schedule. Nevertheless, the current Safe Ride vehicles should actually still be operational for several more years. So there is still time to increase this fee in the future if we feel like this is a pressing matter. The fee review committee just felt that this wasn't the year to support those increases. One area that we did choose to support increases was Safe Ride. We actually, compared to last time, we decreased our increase by $1.80. That leaves a new total of $15.75. That will allow Safe Ride to return to nearly full service, but hours might have to be reduced compared to previous years. The Transit Commission is going to work with KU Transit to find the best way for the Safe Ride to return to serving students come the fall. And we didn't provide any resolutions or anything, so we're leaving that fully up to the Transit Commission for how it can best serve students. Next is recycling. This is actually probably the biggest change between these two fee packages. We were able to grant recycling their flat ask rather than cutting it entirely. While the committee still believes it should not be funded through student fees, it was decided that a discussion and then a potential removal from the fee in future years was better than a preemptive cut without much of a warning, as we had in our last version of this package. A cut now is likely going to mean that recycling operations cease to exist next year, so we wanted to instead lay the groundwork for recycling to be taken off of students' shoulders. To this point, a resolution was passed directed towards KU administration, stating that the Student Senate requests that the University of Kansas administration assume primary financial responsibility for campus recycling services, as it represents an essential operational function of the institution and should not be funded through required student fees. But to be clear, we're keeping them flat at $335 instead of cutting them down to $0. And finally, we have student support and case management. As discussed earlier with CAPS and Student Senate, the committee decided to grant them a small allocation so they could officially join the required student fee. That's going to take some weight off of block funding, but student support and case management will still require support from block in order to match the support we've historically provided this group. For clarification, I believe they received about $80,000 somewhere in that range from block last year. That was less than their request, but that's how much they were given from block. $1 worth of fees it's on my slide. It's one of the ones I didn't show. $1 worth of fees is somewhere in the range of $46,351. That's our fee multiplier this year. So that means they're still going to require supplemental asks from block. And I believe their ask from block this year is around $200,000. So in order to help support that, we passed a resolution stating that the block funding committee recognized the fee allocation for student support and case management is intended as a supplement for block funding and not to disregard their block request from this entity due to their fee allocations. Okay. Hopefully, I left plenty of time for questions. I know that was way faster than last time, so please let me know if you want me to go more in depth on any of these fee entities or go over any of the ones I skipped. I should have covered all the ones that differed from my last presentation, but I'm very happy to answer any questions.
Questions for the chair of the required student fee committee. Sam Monty.
I would like to ask the chair if they would talk about the committee's choice not to fund.
Yeah, so I'm not going to pull up the slide because I don't think that'll provide much more information here, but the decision regarding the UDK was, let me see if I can, there is one slide that will help. It was tied primarily to the second resolution. There was a lot of discussion brought up about whether the University of Daly Kansan should be included on student fees, if it's something that every student on campus should be paying for, especially given a lot of discussion that happened last year with the UDK and the decrease of $1.50 there. The conclusion that was reached is that we would like to look for potentially a different home for the UDK while still giving them an opportunity to apply for block funding this year. So they have applied for block funding with a similar amount to what they get from student fees. So that's going to be considered next week at block allocations. The only different thing regarding the UDK that was discussed in these past deliberations is we talked about the salary for their advisors and whether or not that is supported by student fees.
Ivana Dominic.
I had a question, and I apologize if it had already been answered. Regarding the Hilltop operating fee, may I ask if there was any deliberations or any agreements that you could share with us? Why it's only 70 cents?
I'll just give a general overview there. Just let me pull it up. Sorry, guys. Here we go. So, like I described, The discussion there was largely the same. This past deliberations more focused on the discussion wasn't really whether or not they should be cut. That was covered a lot in our first deliberations on the 6th. The discussion was more on, can we sustain this fee at a certain level? And then what would that level best be to keep a flat fee this year? Like I mentioned, it was primarily due to a state investigation and then also the small proportion of the revenue and decreased enrollment. Those were still common themes. I do think a change here was that there was more discussion regarding their changes in leadership and updated training. There was more discussion of that during this most recent deliberations, which led us to 70 cents and then some discussion about them potentially presenting for either their original $3.70 or more in future years. This will just allow them to stay as a fee entity and then have that ability to ask for those increases or return of funds during a future year.
Are there any further questions? 15 minutes are remaining. So, Ivana Dominic.
Could you share how many members of the fee committee were there for this new hearings?
Yeah, so we have 12 voting members of the fee review committee. There were, our quorum of voting members is 7, and we had that quorum present at every time quorum was called. Whenever the minutes are posted, you're going to see that a lot of the votes had around 6 votes. To clarify, you do not need a quorum present at every vote. If you don't vote, that's considered abstaining. Does that answer your question?
All right. Any further questions? Seeing none. Thank you.
I will ask that you ask me any question because I don't want like someone to come up here and give a speech about something that could have been a question. So just like, you're all good? Okay, cool.
It would appear so.
Let me see what's next. Give me 1 second, y'all. Okay, so we have heard my presentation on the fiscal year 27 package version 2. I'll go ahead and pull up that bill here in a second. But the way we did it last time, we went into speeches and negation, which I'll give us an hour for with 6-minute speeches each. That was a speech and affirmation. So I'm going to look to see if there's any speeches in negation regarding this fee package. Would anybody like to say vote no on this fee package?
Can I make a motion to enter informal discussion?
So let's be careful here on informal discussion because did we enter it last time? We did when we were talking about recommendations only, right? It was just for recommendations? Okay, so we entered informal discussion for the recommendation section. I will recognize some points of inquiry or points of information, but that's going to have to be just like a sentence or 2 maximum. If there's more than that, it should be a speech.
Point of parliamentary inquiry?
Yeah.
But it's not a point of inquiry to the speaker or the chair. We're just hoping to gather some consensus from the group.
And that's why you made your motion?
Yes.
Okay, so we can take it to a vote. We have a motion to enter informal discussion by Ivana Dominic. Is there a second? Second from Henry. Are there any objections? If there's no objections, is there an objection from Kate? So there's an objection, so we'll take it to a vote on whether or not to enter informal discussion for how long?
2 minutes.
2 minutes, okay. And that's some good timing because I'm going to get our bill pulled up. Can I make it smaller? Okay, is the poll posted?
Which one?
Sorry, what?
Are we voting on it generally?
No, we're voting on informal discussion right now. As soon as that is posted, I'm going to make sure there's no talking about the vote. Are we doing this on the voting channel? Okay. This poll will be in the voting channel. If you don't have access to it and you believe you should, come on up here. And just to clarify the way we'll do this, still wait on me to call on you, but you don't need to make a motion or a point or something. You can just address something to the body. Poll is posted, so go ahead and vote. Do you need to be added? Tanya, she's a voting member? Oh, yes, absolutely. Okay, let me add you. Okay, what is your name? Michelle Blackburn, yes. Okay. I don't know why it's so slow. Okay, you should be added. If it doesn't show up, like right under Finance Council, look in hidden channels. Absolutely. What's your name? Evan Hurst. I did know this. Okay. There is a live vote, y'all. You should be added. It's majority. Because I can just do it. I can just have this enter informal discussion. But I think it's better for this to be a vote. You made sure it was only one response per person, right?
Yep.
Okay. Okay. Poll is closing in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And I will allow our vice chair to read out the result.
With 10 votes in approval and 8 votes in negation, this passes.
Okay. So let's go ahead and have some informal discussion. Ivana, I'll let you start us out since you made the motion. If you've got anything to add. If not, okay, go ahead.
How are we, sorry.
Oh, Catchbox, sorry.
Oh.
it's right here.
There we go.
I was curious for the people that were not in the deliberations, how are we feeling about the appropriations for Hilltop, recycling, and the UDK?
I'd throw in,
Pass it to someone?
there were a lot more changes that they're made, so I'd throw in things like the union and some of the other changes, but go ahead.
Yes, but I was specifically asking about those three, since that's what we talked about last time.
I got you. Okay, go ahead.
I have pretty mixed feelings on it, more towards the positive side. I appreciate all the compromises that were made, especially with like the union and Safe Ride to do what they can to meet our request. I guess my only concern would be that the UDK didn't get anything. Yeah.
Okay, who else has informal discussion? It can be about in response to what Ivana said or just anything.
So I wasn't at the second round of deliberations. I was out of state. I don't like, obviously my positions were a little more extreme from the first hearing. Given the resolution to reconsider every entity that was defunded, I don't necessarily think the allocations in this like round of deliberations really reflect that, nor do I think they're like a happy medium of any sort. I think I'm rather displeased with the allocations in general, but that's just like my temperature check.
And I would recommend giving a speech of negation if you do feel okay. I just want to make sure that we know the procedure here. We can go back to Sam if there's nobody else. Sam's already spoken, so is there anyone else? Okay, Sam, go ahead.
This is unrelated to that. If we were to vote this down and fee committee were not to meet again, who would be making the decisions about this?
I'll pause it. I'll treat that as like a point of inquiry, pause the time and answer. So I've been speaking very vaguely in terms of KU administration and the Kansas Board of Regents. I think the Kansas Board of Regents is more obvious because they're the ones who approve the tuition and fees, like the budget for each university. You can look up their members and things like that. Administration is a bit vague, more vague, and I would say the most clear thing here, and our advisors can provide some more information. Look at the bottom of the bill, and then primarily kind of everything from here and up. We'll have some input on it, more leaning on Dr. Durham. That's my understanding. Sure.
My point of inquiry is, say we don't pass this bill, would it be possible to send like a copy of like resolutions of like what we would want in a fee package to those groups to abide by or no?
Towards administration.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I mentioned, we should have time in this meeting here tonight to do recommendations again. We don't have the authority to tell anybody but ourselves with the fee review committee anything, but what we could do, and what I could do in my role as finance chair, we can remand it to the RSF committee, and I'll try my darndest to have us meet again. Like I said, it's really not gonna happen. I highly doubt that. I'll try our darndest to have us to meet again and meet those recommendations. If it doesn't happen, I'll provide that to administration, but then it's out of our hands. I don't know what more I can do for everybody, and it's my number one priority that the student fee remains in student hands. Okay. Ivana, if you got anything.
There we go. I was going to say, I do appreciate the time that everyone took in the committee to kind of come through the decision-making process and in the second round. And I do think that there was a compromise reached, so I really do appreciate that. But I don't know exactly how I feel about not having any funding for the UDK. I do appreciate that there were some changes regarding Hilltop and then recycling, and I think Union, was that said earlier? Okay, but I don't know how I feel about the UDK, and I don't know. I was just kind of hoping to get a little bit more of a vibe check
time
from
is up, but
everyone.
I'll let her finish. Go ahead. You were hoping for vibe checks.
I was just hoping from a vibe check to see if we were okay with that, because I know we were all pretty committed to the conversation last time this was presented.
So I believe the time for a vibe check / informal discussion is up. So we'll need a motion to extend that time if we want to, but I really think we should move to speeches. Arya, what is this?
Motion to extend the time by 2 minutes.
Okay, motion to extend time by 2 minutes, second by Ivana Dominic. There's an objection, so we'll take it to a vote again. We can also do this after speeches. I'll allow that.
Point of parliamentary inquiry,
Sure.
do you know for sure there will be speeches?
I don't, but I believe that
Give a speech.
I've heard from our secretary they wanted to give a speech in negation.
Okay.
So if we're gonna go as long as there's speeches in negation, because we need to end on a speech in negation. Actually, we had like an hour blocked for it, so we'll go whatever happens first. We run out of speech in negation or we hit that hour, and then we'll need a motion to extend time if we want to.
That poll's posted.
Because to clarify, that is why I'm being a bit pushy in terms of speeches, is because we're gonna need that motion to extend time at 8:30 if we don't get through all of our speeches by then.
Point of parliamentary inquiry, this is,
Sure. Does it relate to this vote? Because otherwise we need to vote on this.
yes.
Okay.
This is the last item on our agenda, correct, other than announcements?
Yes.
Okay.
But we
So
do
we
need to
can rush.
leave. If it fails, we need to fail it by 9 p.m.
Yeah.
We need to vote on it by 9 p.m. Make sure we're not talking during the vote, guys. Poll is closing in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Our vice chair can read the results.
With 7 votes in approval, 13 votes in negation, 1 vote in abstention, this does not pass.
So, with that being said, I'm going to take us into speeches. I believe we do have a speech in negation queued up. Okay. So, I'm going to do this in a similar way to what we did last time. We're going to do first members of the fee review committee / finance council, and then we'll open it broader up to anyone involved with student senate, and then we'll have time for speeches from anybody here in the room also, if we'd like to do that. We will also offer time for, after speeches, we'll do time for points of information, and I can recognize anybody for that, just to make sure we have all the information we need before we vote too. But if it walks and talks like a speech, let's have it be a speech. Okay. Tanya, you will have, what did I say, 6 minutes? 6 minutes for the speech and questions starting whenever, and you can do it wherever you want to do it up there.
The same locational standard.
And I believe everything at the podium is on the live stream too. Just
Okay.
FYI.
This is gonna be me at like some of my most chopped.
Okay. 6 minutes starting whenever.
Okay. I think that this revised fee package, while it may present slightly less of a disservice to the student body than perhaps the first one, which was the subject of some public outrage, I don't think that this fee package quite remedies the problems that were posed to it in the first place. This is me coming not only from, this is me decentering my opinion, rather looking towards the resolutions that were coupled with the fee package in conjunction to the posted fee, the results of the fee, what do you call it? The fee survey. I think anything like anything that is a flat ask or above is truly a disservice to the student body. Most of the student body wanted a reduction in the fee. We somehow managed to strike that down, and I do understand the discontent with that. But we have to consider that it has gotten financially harder just to be a student. It's going to be more difficult to get a student loan. Student loan practices have become increasingly predatory. It is hard to be a student. And even if someone says, oh, you only decreased it by $1 or $2, I think the word only is inappropriate. $1 or $2 is a lot to some students. I have classmates who have returned textbooks because they have credit card debt. I have classmates who are considering filing for bankruptcy just because it is so hard to be a graduate student. So I do think the flat ask in and of itself is a disservice. I also think the lack of representation is a disservice. And by what I mean the funding of student support and case management. Do I think what they do is unimportant? Not in the slightest. I think they serve an important and vital campus function. However, if we want something to be funded on the fee, why did we not present it as a resolution and give students notice as to not only what this entity does, but the services it provides? So it is in the hands of the student body to determine whether something or not can be on the student fee. That's exactly what we did with SAPEC. So I think this organization should be held to the same standard than have the student body or like student governance deal with an already overbloated student fee package. Furthermore, I think that's an issue. I mean, student support and case management does fulfill some of the same tasks that the care coordinator does here. But a large aspect of difference is that their services are not confidential. If you look on SAPEC's website, it does say so. If you report certain things to student support and case management, they will report it whether or not you want that to happen, which I think is an issue that should be addressed. Like, do students want this non-confidential service that performs the same service as other entities? Further, I don't think all services that were zeroed out were adequately considered as they should have been per the resolution. Honestly, at this point, I think the best thing to do is to send a list of what we want as a student body to administration or KBOR, because frankly, in this context, they might have a better sense of what we want than what the fee package is, like what this fee package provides, at least in my opinion. Thank you.
That leaves 2 minutes and 30 seconds for questions. What questions do we have? Not seeing any questions. We'll go Alex and then Kate, and then I might have a question, but I'll defer that to the end probably. Alex?
What services does the speaker suggest cutting if she wants a reduced fee?
It's not my belief that recycling should have been funded in full, not because it's unimportant again, but like Hilltop, it provides limited benefit to students. There have been numerous articles, I believe, in the Lawrence Journal World and Lawrence Times that stated that a large section of student recycling was cut when recycling was no longer offered at the unions. You can even look out there. We don't have a recycling can there. Further, recycling isn't offered in housing. While it may be offered at, at major hubs like CapFed, the benefit to academic buildings largely serves to support maybe like professors and administration over places where we would find the student body. That is one cut I would make. I mean, obviously, I do have some bias in that I was fine with the original fee package that had been struck down. But I don't think if we were truly to consider funding every service that had been defunded, this fee package is not an adequate representation of that ask from this council in the slightest.
Kate, do you have a question? Okay, do we have any other questions? Ivana, go ahead. If you don't have a question, I can ask one.
My apologies. Yeah, it just slipped,
Okay.
but you can ask.
I'll ask one really quick and then I'll go to Sean. So you mentioned you feel like we didn't go with that fourth resolution recommendation enough to reconsider those that have been cut down. Could you explain which fee entities you believe we didn't consider enough or the fee review committee did not consider enough?
Absolutely. I should
You
put
can
like
scroll up if you want the
Oh,
list,
no,
by
no.
the way.
I should note that I was the one who originally voted to zero out a lot of these resolutions in the first place at the fee review committee. However, looking objectively to this resolution, then the UDK should have been funded under this second iteration of the fee package. If recycling and Hilltop were funded, that only seems fair and equitable.
Sean?
I would like to ask the speaker if they think that this fee package is better than the current fee package currently in place.
I think this fee package attempts a compromise that truly benefits maybe one or two entities, but isn't a happy compromise in the slightest. I am still biased towards the first package, mostly on account of the fact that it did decrease the overall student fee in the figure of somewhere around 220, and that's something that has been a major point of contention for at least my sect of the student body.
Okay. That is all the time we have for this speech. Do we have any motions to extend time? Keep in mind that we would probably want to extend the same courtesy to future speakers. Okay. Not seeing any motions to extend time. Thank you. Okay. So we need to see, I want hands for how many speeches in negation there are to kind of plan out our remaining time. This is not a commitment to make a speech in negation. Just raise your hand if you would make a speech in negation, and you can withdraw that anytime. Am I seeing no hands? Okay. So if there are no hands for a speech in negation, I think it'd be best to let that presentation stand as a speech in affirmation, and then we can end on that speech in negation. So there's no more speeches in negation? Okay. So what we'll do right now, we'll look for any points of information or points of inquiry for any remaining questions, because we do still have some time here. So I want to make sure that's answered. So this can be from anybody here in the room. If you have a point of information that's like a minute, 2 minutes maximum for anything you'd like to add about what the fee package would look like, let me pull it back up. Then I will recognize that. Or if you have any questions, I love questions. What is this, Jeff?
This is a motion.
Is it a motion to vote?
It is.
Okay, let's quickly see. There's no hands for anything else. I want to make sure everybody who'd like to speak gets a chance. Okay. Kate, what is this?
Mr. Chairman, what is the likelihood that admin considers our recommendations and their assigning of the fee package in the instance that this fails?
So there's been a point of inquiry raised regarding administration considering a different fee package, and I hate to say I'm going to give the exact same answer I've been giving all tonight. I don't know an exact percentage or an exact amount. I will just say there is precedent for somewhere higher up the chain. I believe it was the Board of Regents. I can figure out exactly what year if you guys want. I want to say fiscal year 22, 23-ish, something like that. Probably 22. A flat fee was just passed. Fiscal year 21 became the fiscal year 22 fee. So that's the only real precedent I have to go by. Nobody's told me what they would do, what they would rather do, because obviously we haven't presented anything for them. But like I said, it's a risk. Well, I don't want to just keep calling. What is this?
Question.
Do we have
Chair,
questions from anybody else first? Okay, I recognize this question, but I don't want one person to dominate the discussion here. Go ahead.
my last one. Mr. Chair, does that mean that we will not be getting Safe Ride back?
If the question is if the fiscal year 26 fee is passed flat, then you can find Safe Ride here on this table. See that they are at, what was it? $5, and $5 was not enough for Safe Ride to continue this year. It was only enough for the Safe Bus program to continue. So if the fiscal year 26 fee is passed just as how it is in that left column, then it's student services are going to look like what they look like this year. Perhaps a bit worse because of inflation.
So this is a point of information. I was lucky enough to sit into the latest round of deliberations as a minutes taker. Let me tell you, the room was contentious. I watched them debate for like 45 minutes on where to cut the last 40 cents to make this flat. I don't know if a better compromise could be come to with another round of deliberations while also trying to take into account the resolutions passed by finance the first time.
And I'll provide a quick point of information, and this is to reiterate the words of Mia Keen was the one that brought this framing, and I think that this was brought up during our third round of deliberations, and I think it's every fee deserves individualized consideration. That's something for me, and that's something that was provided to a lot of fee review committee members. But Mia Keen described that if you look at the rec fee, like if you want a flat fee, right? If you know it's going to be a flat fee, you look at the rec the rec bond decrease of $11.55, and then you look at the Safe Ride increase. They're pretty similar in size. So everything else, every other increase comes at the cost of another fee entity. So that was a piece of framing that was brought up, and that's one way you could look at this fee package to justify those increases and decreases. Sam?
I guess this would be a point of inquiry for any members of the committee who were there at that last meeting. If you were struggling to find the last 40 cents for where to cut that from, why did you not follow the recommendation given by this council for Safe Ride?
Is there any fee review committee members besides Kate? Because Kate's gotten to speak a lot in this section. Is there anybody else who would like to speak on that?
This section, okay. Yeah, we did have some discussion around Safe Ride. We never did end up reaching enough voting members who were wanting to talk about Safe Ride to go any further than we did towards the beginning of discussions, is when we reached the level we're at right now.
For a point of information, sorry the minutes aren't live, guys, but if you did watch the recording or if you were there, you'll know that we motioned to enter discussion on Watkins, LSS, what else? Just throw things out there that failed, the ones that we didn't discuss.
Safe Ride, bus procurement
Safe Ride.
as well.
Bus procurement, that failed once. The rec. So there was a motion to enter discussion on all of those with justification given, and some of them we even had debate on. And those ones failed, and there wasn't enough people who wanted to re-enter discussion on those because they wanted to keep it whatever it was at that time. So there was a lot of discussion on whether we should enter discussion, if that makes sense, to change things around.
Wait, I don't find it anybody then.
Okay, Tanya, you're recognized.
Okay,
You catch box though.
okay.
Point of inquiry, isn't Sean technically the chair right now?
So the way I'm going to do it like we're doing it last. I'm going to do it how we did it last time. I'm chairing at the moment. Sean chaired during my presentation, but last time, 2 weeks ago, I chaired during our discussion, our debate phase. So we're going to do it just like that. Raise a point of order if you have a problem with that, but that's how we did it last cycle too. It just looks a little bit different right now because I'm the questioning period looks a little different. And like I said, make sure you ask any questions.
Okay. The fact that people moved to enter discussion on these entities, does that mean there were persons who were amenable to cutting like student healthcare through Watkins, like that fee on the committee?
I can't speak for exactly why that motion was made. I was about to say you'd have to look at the minutes, but the minutes aren't live, so you'd have to look at the recording. I believe that that motion was made in order to decrease the increase granted to Watkins Health Services. That motion failed. To be clear, that motion enter discussion requires a majority to pass. A majority is also required to change that fee allocation, and then 2/3 is required to pass the package as a whole. And it was given, the package passed unanimously. I should have included that. The package passed with 6 votes in affirmation, right? And I said multiple times, if you are disgruntled about any particular fee, you need to vote no. So that means that 6 people voted in affirmation with the understanding that they could have voted no and then forced us to rediscuss whatever they wanted to rediscuss. So not enough people wanted to discuss Watkins Health Services, the rec, all those other things that I mentioned there were motions to enter discussion on. And if not enough people want to discuss it, the vote wouldn't have passed. Okay, we can go to Alex if you've got some.
I will say the last 40 cents was cut for the Safe Ride to get closer to the recommendation of the council. Looking at the minutes, rec center, bus procurement, and then finally into Safe Ride to cut the last 40 cents to get it flat.
Okay. Any other points of inquiry or points of information? If not, it'll be time for that vote. Okay. Jeff, would you like to renew that motion to vote?
Yes, I would.
Okay. Jeff Brooker motions to vote. There's a second from Zach Lemke. Are there any objections, meaning you'd like further discussion on the fiscal year 27 fee package? Seeing no objections, let's take it to a vote. Remember, 2/3 to pass, and keep in mind everything that was said about the procedure if it fails.
It's posted.
Thank you.
How do you want me to announce?
Let me make sure I actually set a timer for this. And just remember, no speaking right now. We had plenty of time for discussion. By the way, the part 3 minutes are now linked on the agenda, and I'll try to update the part 2 ones as soon as I got this. Polls closing in 5, 4, and you're gonna have the results.
Yep.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Kara, Vice Chair will read out the results.
With 20 votes in affirmation, 1 vote in negation, and no votes in abstention, this bill clearly passes.
Okay, you all, thank you so much. Let me get our agenda back up there. Double miking it right now. This is crazy. Huh. Lovely. Okay. So that brings us to announcements. I'm going to give a quick clarification here right now. Fee minutes, because we didn't provide them all here. So in Robert's rules, you actually have to read the minutes unless previous notice is provided. I would say because they weren't linked before this meeting, previous notice was not provided. So we'll probably approve those minutes next cycle is probably the best way we can do that. But yeah, they'll be on this agenda, and if they're not on this agenda, they'll be on the minutes. So you can read over those and come with any corrections you might have. But yeah, and hopefully we'll also have block minutes for that too. And I think I need to make sure that we have a block secretary. So we have that was the reason why the minutes have a delay. There's no secretary listed in the Constitution for Finance Council. Sorry, for the fee review committee. I'm gonna try to fix that next year. I'm plotting a big. That's my announcement, I guess. I'm plotting a big amendment for fee review to fix a lot of the issues this year. So look forward to that in one of the next 2 cycles. Sorry for that elongated announcement. Let me start some actual announcements. I've got this flyer about Civic Learning Week to share with you all. It starts. I'm gonna go ahead and end the live stream because we only got announcements left. Thank you all for anyone who joined us.